Right now, as you're watching this, your body is making roughly 3.8 million cells every single second. Every single second. And most of the time, your body gets it right. The DNA copies perfectly, the cell divides cleanly, everything hums along like a factory running a night shift. But here's what nobody tells you about turning 50. That factory starts losing its quality control inspectors, the mechanisms that used to catch errors, that used to spot a misfolded protein or a mutated strand of DNA and destroy it before it could do any damage. Those mechanisms begin to slow down, and in some cases, they fall asleep on the job entirely. Now, I want you to think about that for a moment, because this isn't some abstract idea. This is happening inside your body right now, and the question isn't whether your cells are making mistakes. They absolutely are. The question is whether your body still has the ability to clean up those mistakes before they become something dangerous. And that is the conversation we need to have today. Because there is a daily habit, one remarkably simple thing, that can fundamentally shift the odds in your favor. But before I tell you what it is, you need to understand what's actually happening beneath your skin after the age of 50, because once you see it, you will never look at your body the same way again. Let's start with something that most people have never heard of, and yet it is one of the most important biological processes keeping you alive right now. It's called angiogenesis. Angiogenesis is the process by which your body grows new blood vessels. Now you might think, blood vessels? Okay, that sounds like plumbing. But it's so much more than that. Your body contains roughly 60,000 miles of blood vessels. If you laid them end to end, they would wrap around the earth more than twice. And these blood vessels aren't just passive tubes. They are active, living structures that deliver oxygen, nutrients, and immune cells to every tissue in your body. They are the supply lines. And just like in a war, whoever controls the supply lines controls the outcome. Here's where it gets fascinating. Your body has this extraordinary ability to balance angiogenesis. It can grow new blood vessels when you need them, say when you have a wound that needs to heal, and it can prune them back when they're no longer needed. This balance is maintained by a whole orchestra of molecular signals, pro-angiogenic factors that say grow, and anti-angiogenic factors that say stop. When you're young, this system is remarkably precise. It's like a thermostat set to exactly the right temperature. But after 50, the thermostat starts to drift. The signals get noisier, the balance tips. And here's why that matters for cancer. A microscopic tumor, we're talking a cluster of maybe a few hundred abnormal cells, cannot grow larger than the tip of a ballpoint pen without its own blood supply. It simply can't. It will sit there, dormant, starved of oxygen and nutrients, unable to expand. We actually know this from autopsy studies, and this is one of the most striking findings in all of cancer research. When pathologists examined people who died of causes completely unrelated to cancer, car accidents, heart attacks, other things, they found microscopic cancers in an astonishing number of them. Tiny thyroid cancers, tiny breast cancers, tiny prostate cancers. These people had no idea. Think about that. These individuals were walking around living their lives completely healthy, with microscopic cancers inside them that never grew, never spread, never caused a single symptom. And the reason they never grew is that the body's angiogenic defense system kept them starved. It refused to give them a blood supply. So cancer isn't just about whether abnormal cells form. They form in virtually all of us. Cancer is about whether your body can keep those cells in check. And one of the most powerful ways it does that is by controlling angiogenesis, by refusing to feed the tumor. Now let's add another layer to this, because angiogenesis isn't the only defense system you have. Let's talk about your stem cells. And I don't mean the stem cells you hear about in the news, the controversial ones. I'm talking about the stem cells that already live inside your body right now, doing extraordinary things. You have stem cells in your bone marrow, in your gut lining, in your skin, in your lungs. These are your body's repair crew. When tissue is damaged, stem cells activate and regenerate it. They replace old, worn-out cells with fresh, healthy ones. They are the reason a cut on your hand heals in a week instead of staying open forever. But here's what happens after 50. Your stem cell reserves begin to decline. Some estimates suggest that by the time you're in your 60s, you may have lost up to 75% of the regenerative stem cell function you had in your 20s. 75%. That is a dramatic drop. And what that means is your body's ability to repair damaged tissue slows down. Damaged cells that should have been replaced with healthy ones, they linger, they accumulate mutations, they become vulnerable to the very signals that can push them toward becoming cancerous. So now you've got a double problem. Your angiogenic defenses are weakening, which means microscopic tumors are more likely to acquire a blood supply and start growing. And your stem cell reserves are declining, which means damaged tissue isn't being repaired properly, creating more opportunities for cancerous mutations in the first place. But wait, there's a third defense system I need to tell you about, and this one might be the most important of all. It's your immune system, specifically the branch of your immune system designed to hunt and kill cancer cells. It's called immune surveillance. You have cells in your body called natural killer cells. That's their actual name. Natural killer cells, or NK cells. And their job is extraordinary. They patrol your body like sentries, examining every cell they encounter. And when they find a cell that's behaving abnormally, a cell that's showing signs of becoming cancerous, they destroy it. They literally inject it with toxic granules that cause it to self-destruct. A healthy person's immune system kills cancer cells every single day. This is not speculation. This is established immunology. Your body is in a constant silent war with precancerous cells, and most of the time your immune system wins. But after 50, and I think you can see the pattern now, your immune system begins to weaken. There's a term for this. It's called immunosenescence. Your thymus, the organ that trains your T cells, has already started shrinking by the time you're in your 20s. By 50, it's a fraction of its original size. The production of new, naive immune cells drops. The ones you still have become less effective, less responsive, slower to activate. So let me paint the full picture for you. After 50, you have more cellular errors being made. You have a weakened angiogenic defense system that's more likely to accidentally feed a microscopic tumor. You have fewer stem cells to repair damaged tissue before it becomes precancerous, and you have a declining immune system that's less capable of finding and destroying the abnormal cells that slip through. This is why cancer rates climb so dramatically after the age of 50. It's not one thing, it's the simultaneous erosion of multiple defense systems that were designed to work together. It's like a castle losing its moat, its walls, and its archers all at the same time. Now, here's where I want to shift the conversation entirely, because everything I just told you might sound terrifying. But the reality is actually profoundly hopeful, because these defense systems, every single one of them, can be strengthened. They can be supported. In some cases, they can even be partially restored, and you don't need a pharmacy to do it. This brings me to the habit, the one daily habit that, based on the research I've spent my career studying, may be the single most impactful thing you can do after 50 to support your body's natural cancer defenses. And it is this: eating a specific category of foods every single day that contain naturally occurring compounds capable of starving cancer's blood supply, boosting your stem cell function, and reactivating your immune surveillance. I'm talking about deeply pigmented berries and tree nuts, and I'm going to be very specific because specificity matters. The foods at the very top of the evidence pyramid, the ones with the most robust data, are black raspberries, walnuts, and to a slightly lesser degree, pistachios and pecans, along with other dark berries like blackberries and wild blueberries. Now, before you think I'm oversimplifying this, let me walk you through the science. Because the reason these foods are so powerful isn't marketing, it isn't a trend, it's molecular biology. Let's start with black raspberries, because the research on these is genuinely remarkable. Black raspberries contain a class of compounds called anthocyanins. These are the molecules responsible for their deep, almost black, purple color, and anthocyanins have been shown in peer-reviewed research to directly inhibit angiogenesis, the very process that feeds tumors. There was a series of studies conducted at The Ohio State University, led by researchers in the Department of Cancer Biology, that looked at the effect of black raspberry powder on precancerous lesions in the colon and the esophagus. What they found was striking. The black raspberry compounds didn't just slow down the growth of abnormal cells, they actually reversed precancerous changes in the tissue. The lesions regressed, the tissue began to normalize, and when they looked at the mechanism, at what was happening at the molecular level, they found that the anthocyanins were suppressing a protein called vascular endothelial growth factor, or VEGF. Now, VEGF is the single most important signal that tumors use to recruit new blood vessels. It's like a distress flare that cancer sends up saying, I need blood, send me a supply line. And the anthocyanins in black raspberries were dampening that signal. They were cutting the supply line before it could even form. Think about what that means. A handful of berries, consumed daily, containing molecules that do at the microscopic level what some of the most advanced anti-cancer drugs are designed to do. In fact, one of the most successful cancer drugs of the past 2 decades, bevacizumab, works by blocking VEGF. And here you have a food, a whole food, with compounds that target the same pathway. Now, I want to be very careful here. I am not saying that black raspberries are a replacement for cancer treatment. They are not. But as a daily preventive strategy, as a way to support your body's natural ability to keep microscopic cancers dormant and unfed, the evidence is remarkably compelling. And it's not just angiogenesis. Let's talk about what walnuts do, because walnuts target a completely different defense system, your immune surveillance. Walnuts are one of the richest plant sources of a specific type of omega-3 fatty acid called alpha-linolenic acid, or ALA. They also contain L-glutathione, which are metabolized by your gut bacteria into a compound called urolithin A. Now, urolithin A has been generating enormous excitement in the research community over the past several years. Urolithin A has been shown to rejuvenate mitochondria, the energy factories inside your cells. And here's why that matters for cancer prevention. Your natural killer cells, those immune sentries I told you about earlier, depend heavily on healthy mitochondria to function. When mitochondria are damaged or dysfunctional, which increasingly happens after 50, your NK cells become sluggish. They lose their killing power. They start missing cancer cells that they would have caught a decade earlier. Urolithin A, generated from the compounds in walnuts, has been shown in research published in Nature Medicine to trigger a process called mitophagy, which is your cell's way of clearing out damaged mitochondria and replacing them with functional ones. It's like taking a fleet of broken down trucks off the road and replacing them with brand new vehicles. Suddenly your supply chain works again. Suddenly your immune cells have the energy they need to do their job. There was a clinical trial, a randomized controlled trial in humans, that showed that urolithin A supplementation improved mitochondrial function and muscle performance in older adults. And while that study focused on muscle, the mechanism, the revitalization of mitochondrial function, applies across cell types, including immune cells. So now you've got black raspberries targeting angiogenesis, cutting the blood supply to dormant tumors. And you've got walnuts supporting immune function, helping your natural killer cells regain their ability to find and destroy precancerous cells. Two different defense systems reinforced by two different foods through two completely different molecular mechanisms. But there's still the third defense system, your stem cells. And this is where the story gets even more interesting, because certain compounds found in both berries and nuts have been shown to support stem cell health and function. There's a pathway in your body called the WNT signaling pathway. It's one of the master regulators of stem cell activity. When WNT signaling is functioning properly, your stem cells know when to activate, when to divide, and when to go dormant. It's like a traffic signal for your repair crew. But when WNT signaling goes haywire, which it increasingly does with age and chronic inflammation, stem cells can either become overactive, which can contribute to cancer, or underactive, which impairs tissue repair. The polyphenols found in dark berries and the bioactive compounds in walnuts have been shown to help modulate WNT signaling, keeping it in that healthy middle zone. Not too active, not too dormant. They essentially help recalibrate the traffic signal so your repair crews can do their job without going rogue. Now let me talk about practical application, because none of this matters if you don't actually do it. The research suggests that you need about a half cup of dark berries per day and roughly 1 ounce of walnuts, which is about a small handful, maybe 14 walnut halves. That's it. That is the daily dose that the studies have used to demonstrate these effects. And here's the thing that I love about this. It's not expensive. It's not complicated. You don't need a prescription. You don't need a special device. You need a small bowl, some frozen black raspberries or blackberries or wild blueberries, and a handful of walnuts. You can eat them together. You can put them in a bowl with some plain yogurt. You can blend them into a smoothie. The delivery method doesn't matter nearly as much as the consistency. Consistency. That is the word I want you to hold on to. Because these foods work through chronic, sustained exposure. They're not like a drug that hits hard and fast. They work by gently, persistently reinforcing your defense systems day after day after day. The anthocyanins from your berries are metabolized and cleared from your body within 24 to 48 hours. The elagitannins from walnuts are processed by your gut bacteria in a similarly transient window, which means if you eat them Monday and then skip until Friday, you've lost 3 days of defense. Think of it like brushing your teeth. You wouldn't brush on Monday and skip until the weekend and expect healthy teeth. Your body's cancer defenses work the same way. They need daily reinforcement. Now, I want to address something that I know some of you are thinking. You're thinking, can it really be this simple? And I understand that skepticism. We live in a culture that equates complexity with effectiveness. If it's not a complicated protocol, if it doesn't require a dozen supplements and a strict regimen, we assume it can't really work. But I'll tell you something I've learned in decades of medical research. The most powerful interventions are often the simplest ones. Clean water prevented more disease than any antibiotic ever invented. Hand washing transformed surgery more than any single surgical technique. And the daily consumption of specific bioactive foods may turn out to be one of the most powerful cancer prevention strategies available to us, particularly after the age of 50 when our defenses are most vulnerable. There's another piece of this that I think is important to mention. Your gut microbiome, the trillions of bacteria living in your intestines, plays a critical role in how effectively you can convert the compounds in these foods into their active forms. Urolithin A, which I mentioned earlier, isn't actually present in walnuts. It's produced by specific bacteria in your gut when they break down the elagitannins in walnuts. If your gut microbiome is unhealthy, if it's been disrupted by years of processed food, unnecessary antibiotics, or chronic stress, you may not be converting these compounds as efficiently as you could. And this is why the combination of berries and walnuts is so elegant, because the fiber in both of these foods serves as a prebiotic, feeding the very bacteria that are responsible for producing these cancer-fighting metabolites. So the foods themselves help create the conditions for their own activation. It's a self-reinforcing system. I've seen patients in my practice, people in their 50s, 60s, even 70s, who made this one change. They started eating dark berries and a handful of walnuts every single day, and over time, not overnight, but over months, their inflammatory markers improved, their gut diversity increased when we measured it, their energy improved. And while I can never point to a single patient and say, this prevented your cancer, I can point to the body of research and say that the biological mechanisms we know drive cancer prevention were measurably strengthened in their bodies. Let me share one more piece of science that I find absolutely extraordinary. Researchers at the Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health conducted a large prospective study following tens of thousands of people over many years and found that regular nut consumption, particularly walnuts, was associated with a significantly reduced risk of colorectal cancer, one of the cancers whose incidence rises most sharply after 50. The dose that showed benefit was exactly what I mentioned, roughly 1 ounce, a small handful, consumed regularly. And separate research on berry consumption, published in journals including the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition, has shown associations between regular intake of anthocyanin-rich berries and reduced risk of several cancer types, including esophageal, colon, and oral cancers. Now, I want to bring this all together with an analogy that I think makes the whole picture clear. Imagine your body after 50 as an old house. The roof has some weak spots. The foundation has a few cracks. The security system flickers on and off. You could ignore all of that and hope for the best. Or you could do something small every single day to maintain it. Patch the roof, seal the cracks, keep the alarm system charged. That's what this daily habit does. The berries patch the roof by blocking the blood vessel growth that tumors need. The walnuts charge the alarm system by rejuvenating your immune cells. And together, through their fiber and their polyphenols, they seal the cracks by supporting your stem cells and your gut microbiome. No single day of eating these foods is going to change your biology, but 365 days of eating them, and then another 365, and another, that cumulative effect is what changes the trajectory. That is what tips the balance from a body whose defenses are eroding toward a body that is actively, quietly, persistently defending itself. And I think there's something beautiful about that, because it means that the power to protect yourself isn't locked away in a laboratory or hidden behind a prescription pad. It's sitting in the produce aisle. It's in a bag in the bulk section of your grocery store. It's in a freezer bag you can keep in your kitchen for months. You just have to reach for it. Every day. That's the habit, that's the intervention. It's not glamorous. It will never make headlines the way a new drug does. But at the biological level, at the level of your blood vessels and your immune cells and your stem cells and your DNA, it is profound. I've spent my career studying how the body defends itself against disease, and I will tell you this with complete conviction. The body wants to be healthy. It is designed to fight cancer. It has multiple overlapping systems built specifically to prevent tumors from ever gaining a foothold, but those systems need fuel. They need the right molecular signals. And after 50, they need more help than they did before. A half cup of dark berries, a handful of walnuts, every single day. It is the simplest prescription I have ever given, and I believe it may be among the most important. Your body has been fighting for you your entire life. This is how you fight back for it.